There you go.
All right, we've got a little stare down going here, or a little talking and stare down at the same time. One guy's staring, one guy's talking. Now, if they're both 6'3", I'm 5'2".
Mm-hmm.
Foreman looks to be the big guy, even though. Well, no, I don't want to. I don't want to insult Muggsy Bogues that way, so I never go to 5'3". Always go to 5'2". All right, this is the one we've been waiting for. Ali's looking spry like he's going to dance.
Foreman said after that, Ali said, "You were in high school when I fought Sonny Liston. George, you're just a kid. You don't mean nothing to me." And George said, "I wasn't in high school. I was not doing other things."
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Now,
Foreman's
thanks to ESPN.
Yeah,
well, they both are listed
6'3", sure. Yeah, but they're both supposed to be 6'3". I always thought Foreman was 6'4", to be honest.
And a thanks to ESPN Classic for letting us steal this off the web.
Yeah, now this was really cool because Ali came out firing, and no one expected that. I mean, he started throwing lead right hands and really firing shots at Foreman, and it was almost like I'm going to get your respect right away. You're not blowing me away like you did Frazier and Norton. So here comes the lead right hand in a minute. Boom.
Yeah.
So, and that you don't do that to a pro. So I mean, we could see Foreman's like, what? I'm going to really start wailing on you. So Ali already showing that cleverness that he was known for.
Crafty.
Yeah, it's about setting the tone too. That's what you mentioned. Setting the tone, moving forward. And Foreman is used to being, like you said, being the guy in charge.
Yep.
But that's what made Ali great. I mean, people always say other things about it, but that's what made him who he was, because no matter what the situation, he always had something for you.
Now, the thing is, do you think, at this point, you're thinking his plan is to be on his toes and dance for 12, 15 rounds? And you're thinking there's no way this man can do that. So, he's like, this is not, he's going to slow down. Ali, I'm talking about, is going to slow down at some point, and George is going to catch up to him.
And last week we were talking about who thought that Ali would win, and basically nobody. They thought maybe if they could get past the early rounds, he might have a chance. But Joe Frazier was the one who said something very interesting. He said, you can count on Ali doing something that Foreman doesn't expect.
Mm-hmm.
So I went, all right, Smoking Joe. Good one.
No doubt. That lets you know that he knew he's giving his accolades because he knew that's who type of guy he was. Keeping you.
Right.
Ooh, that uppercut would have been nasty.
Yeah. Now he's clubbing him, just holding him and clubbing him with those right hands.
And see, as we go through the fight, you're going to see, and I didn't mean to watch the whole thing, but as I was trying to splice it together, there are times when you go like that. He Foreman just missed him.
Oh, he hitting me right here though, so I don't know about just missing. Those are legitimate shots.
With the big shot, right?
But those last little hooks, he just look at that club. He's hitting him beside the head.
See, and Ali's doing something here that nobody was doing with Foreman, which was trading with him. Right. And that wasn't what nobody expected that either. So he really went against. He really flipped the script.
Right. But you notice too in that first round, as you said, he was trading, and then one of the things that Foreman did so well after he got Frazier to a point, there was nothing coming back.
Right.
Nothing coming back. Even early on, there was nothing coming back.
Yeah, and the other thing, see, is Foreman's cutting the ring off, and Ali knew that. Now the young Ali, he would have got out of there and moved, obviously, more, not done as much, but he knew that. I think I read that he said the rings felt heavy and he felt his legs would be heavy, so he started coming up with this plan that is legendary.
Now
he's still moving a little bit here, but there's a big right hand. See, there was a big one.
And see that's I think part of it though. When we look at this fight, Nobody talks about the shots he really took. That would have knocked out a lot of other people. And Ali is still
yes.
Yeah. Ali is still in the business. So I think when we're watching this fight, watch these shots, man, that Foreman is dropping on him. He taking a serious lick.
This is that thing of he tastes his power and he knows, like, okay, you're hitting me with your shots, I can take it. You got to get hit with a shot to figure out if you can take it. He's like, okay, all right, that's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Okay, I'll take some more.
Yeah, and these punches, I teased this last week that Foreman throws. I mean, this story's been told a lot of times, but his heavy bag really had a massive dent in it. And watching him work the bag while you could probably saw him, the bald-headed guy over there, Dick Sadler, was trying to hold it, was one of the most incredible things I ever saw, because I never saw anybody hit a heavy bag like George Foreman, and it was the most amazing. And then everyone was saying, well, that's going to be Muhammad Ali. There's no way he can stand up to those kind of punches. There they are, right there. Those are clubbing, slugging shots.
Right.
Heavy.
And then he has the audacity to tell him to come on.
Yeah.
Right.
And saying to him, he just whispered in his ear, saying, "Is that all you got? Is that all you got?"
And that's the genius of Muhammad Ali, man.
And I remember reading something from George, like, yeah, that is all I got. I'm hitting you with everything I have, and you're shaking it off.
Right. And like you said, most others would have hit the canvas by now.
And it's funny, you mentioned a younger Ali or Foreman is trapping him on the ropes, and the younger Ali would have got out of that situation. A younger Ali wouldn't have got trapped on the ropes.
Right. Exactly.
The younger Ali would have danced before he got there. So
yeah, he's a different Ali here. He's a different fighter. 10 years later, 10 years later. Yeah. Nope.
That left just missed.
Yeah, he's hitting George with some really good right hands, which is good foreshadowing, for what. And then he's just telling him, walk away. It's amazing.
George's like, you won't go down. He ain't gone down yet.
It's only 2 rounds, George. You're going to have to fight a little bit longer.
Everybody else went down. Why he ain't going down?
Good right hand again.
And he's talking in his ear right there. Holding his head, talking in his ear. That's all you got, big boy? That's all you got? And see, here's my point. If they're both 6'3", Foreman looks like he's about 6'5".
Wow, look at these body shots.
I know Ali's leaning back against the ropes, but right.
Look at those body shots he's dropping on them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Foreman was at least 6'4". You're right, Frank. Ali was definitely 6'3", and Foreman he was taller.
Yeah,
but not by much.
We see the tail of the tape before the fight. It's like a 5-pound difference. There's no way it's a 5-pound difference.
Oh, wow.
But look at the way Ali throws his punches. His punches are straight. Just do them again.
He's talking to his ear again.
They're straight. They're right down the middle. He's going right down the pipe with his punches. He's waiting for George to wind up. He got a good jab, though, Foreman, of course, that telephone pole jab. But he's just waiting for him to wind up, and then he's going to go right down the middle and he gets a shot. It's just Foreman is just so strong and dangerous.
Right. That's what I'm saying. When you really have a chance to watch this.
They're right there, right down the middle.
Yeah, I mean, dude, he's getting rocked. That's what nobody talks about that. All they talk about is what we're talking about now. But nobody's talking about the punishment that Foreman is delivering early on in this fight.
Yeah.
There they are.
It's like, damn.
John, you mentioned something about you mentioned Ali's jab. This isn't the flicking sting like a beat. His jab's got a little something on it tonight. That's not just stick it out there and try and make a cut. Like he's putting that jab in him.
Oh my God.
See, at this point,
I'm serious, man. I was just watching this. I'm like, oh my God, really?
Get off the ropes. Don't get off the rope. What are you doing?
I think it was at second round. Yeah, I think it was the end of the second round with Angelo Dundee. He keeps saying it all the way through, but he said, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. So,
yeah.
I'm going to say, he said he knows what he's doing.
And you can't
It
tell
makes
him
you
any
better.
different.
He's getting hit, but he's also landed some good punches. But he could, Ali had such a great chin.
Yeah, I think this is evident of that right now.
Oh,
Watching
yeah.
these 3 rounds, because we don't see that. We don't see that early on.
Well, and
And he
this is a
definitely
weird
go
way to
ahead,
put
Frank.
this, but we're gonna give credit to Sylvester Stallone when he was in against Clubber Lang. It's like, at least I ain't tired. It's like, what? He knows this is where he stole that from. This is obviously, but this is where he stole that from. Ali knows what he's doing. He's bringing George in, letting George throw, and I don't know if it's this round, but it comes up pretty soon. I'll make that point here in a second or in a minute, I hope.
Well, you can see that George, not here, but it starts to become pretty obvious that George is gassed.
Mm-hmm.
Throwing those big bombs and he's getting hit. Look how low his hands are. Look at that.
Yeah.
He wobbled him with that.
Woo.
Wobbled him right
on
there.
his head. Uh-huh. Come chase me again. Come chase me again.
Skip
Okay,
back
here we
in
go.
again.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like the class. Ali was just classier as far as that.
Right.
George was so powerful, so strong.
Wow. Yeah, that strategy works. Working wonders. Yep, strategy working wonders right now. And George is like, you supposed to go down.
And see, it's the same basic thing, but a little different. When Foreman wouldn't let Frazier get to him, Ali's not letting Foreman get to him the way he wants to. When he comes in, boom, 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 2, 3 shots to the face, then he covers up. So by the time George comes all the way in, he's in too close to really land the big bomb. He's not able to attack him from the distance that he wants to attack him from. See, just as he starts to land it, come, boom, boom. Just little short stuff that just keeps him off balance a little bit. Then he allows him to throw.
But you know what's interesting here too is, unlike when Frazier was fighting Foreman, when he pushed him, Foreman would push him away. Ali is literally, if you watch closely, is pulling him to him. He's bringing him in, grabbing him by the ring. He's pulling him closer to him, as you mentioned. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't pay attention to as well in this fight.
Oh, yeah.
Ali's controlling distance, just not the way you would have thought he would be controlling distance. You would have thought he wanted to fight from further away. He's fighting in closer.
Yeah, he's his plan. It's obvious what he's doing, and he's holding George, and George is just using up so much energy. And Ali is in a sense too, but in a sense he's not. He's just kind of waiting. It's this very clever counter-punching way of fighting. But of course, you got to be able to take it, and that's what he's doing. As we've said a few times, he's taking these big shots, but he's just like Ali was a genius in the ring. That's the way I always thought of it. He's one of those people that was genius in there.
But Charles, you're right. When I said he was just missing, he's not missing the body shots. The body shots are thudding, so that's something. He's missing like those punches there. But when he goes down to the body and he's like, "Come on, that's all you got."
Yeah. But I mean, I think part of it too. You're right. He has missed, but early on, Foreman was literally hitting him in his head. He was racking him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, said moving back and forth. But because I mean, it's great to say about the body, but I think we got to give credence to the factor that this is some damn punishment, man. and I need to be able to stand up against it. Says a lot about where he's at and how significant it is in this fight.
Oh,
wow. Yeah.
Do you think the first generation Ali would have not only been able to take this punishment, would have known he could take that punishment? Because I think this is going through with after you face Frazier, after you face Norton, after you like, okay, I know what a big punch feels like. I know what I can take.
Yeah, I mean, he got knocked down badly by Henry Cooper. That's one where he really was hurt bad. You're right. The first Ali and Sonny Banks knocked him down. But yeah, these guys he faced later in his career, they were obviously harder hit, except Liston. And I don't think Liston ever hit him a few times, but never hurt him. But I think he always had that chin. He just might not have been as sure as he is at this point. You're right, Frank. because he got hit with some hellacious shots against Frazier. Other than going down once, he took them all.
Right. Probably easier for him to knowing that he'd get away. Speed was his major asset too back then. So it's like, why in the hell am I going to stand here and get beat up when I can get away?
When I can get away, right?
And he's the one pushing Foreman away, which is interesting. He pushed Foreman, and then he's just peekabooing through those gloves, waiting until he can throw something. So standing right there.
Come on. Yep.
Wow. This is crazy.
It is. There's no shot. Robotic.
2, 3,
robotic
4,
shots.
5.
Yeah, he just looked there. He goes,
hitting a lot of arm.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, and Ali said,
some of those rights.
He felt them, but
like, you will fall now.
This is a great. Watch this when Ali starts fighting back. This is one of the cool parts of it. Look at this now.
Oh man, Daddy started tagging him in upstairs. Just like
Foreman hits him with a left hand. He ducks.
Oh,
he really hits Foreman with some good shots and staggers him.
He's starting to line him up now. You can tell.
Yes, look at that.
Yep.
That right hand again. Oh, he got hit with that one, but whoa.
He killed.
Whoa. Rally at the end of the round.
Yeah, there we go. And I'll just hold on to him now.
Yeah, you just stay right there. Stay right there, George.
And Foreman looks tired. See, look how he's walking back to his corner.
And I'm sure Ali, while they're screaming at him, telling him to stay out the rough, he's like, probably saying to himself, I can't believe this. This happened.
Just go right back to those ropes.
At this point, this kind of the point I was making a couple of rounds ago. Now we're at the point where George is no longer boxing. There's not a lot of boxing being done here. He's leaning, he's pawing, and then he's going to try and throw the big shots. But he's out of the realm of being in a stance, having his guard up. He's not doing anything that we've seen him do as a boxer before.
And getting hit with jabs now. He's getting hit more.
Right. Yeah.
Now he's really shooting that jab.
Yeah, this is the greatness of Ali right here. You're seeing that boxing now. It's like, okay, you're tired. Let me show you why we do this in the gym. I'm pot shotting you now. Amazing, man. I told you, this might have been his greatest fight, man, for me.
I agree. And just the point going into this, I'm sure we'll talk about it after, is that the consensus was Ali couldn't take these kind of punches.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, Howard Cosell basically said that he gave him an obituary on Wide World Sports a weekend before the fight. I remember, forget that.
Right. Man.
But here we go. George closes in. He just kind of leans and paws and hopes he can get between the guard. He's flop, flip. He's out of. I don't know if he's able to. If he's too tired to think about being a boxer. Now he's just trying to finish the job, but he can't figure out how to do it.
Yeah, but you can tell how worried he is. I mean, it's just not the same. He's just like, I'm giving all I can because I can't figure this out, and I'm tired as hell.
Yeah, he's trying, but
like, normally what I do isn't working.
Normally I would.
Ali's just timing it. You can see it, just lining him up.
Yeah. Charles, like you said, normally what he did would have been the fight would have been over by now.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, and then to be like, he's still standing and he's hitting me. I mean, think about it. He's bracing himself.
Yeah.
This dude is definitely hitting me, man.
Yeah, that wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah, he's not going to hit me back.
And he doesn't look tired. I'm sitting here breathing hard. He doesn't look like he's even breathing. What the?
Yeah.
Look, he's like, stool. Here we go. Let's go.
This is
How you doing, George? How you doing, George? Woo!
I told you.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point, Frank. I mean, the difference between how tired George is and how fresh
Yeah.
the 32-year-old Muhammad Ali is, 24-year-old Foreman is very obvious.
Yeah.
Are these even punches he's throwing there?
Yeah. What I love about it is he literally leans back on the ropes like, all right, let me settle in. Great strategy, man. From the old man, huh?
The old man, right.
You know, God love George for what he's trying to do, but this is like, It's like, how did I get to this point? He can't even throw a decent punch now. He's worn out.
Yeah, and Ali's just like, he's the clever old man, you know. He's like, yeah, okay, I'm just biding my time, wait until I think the best time is to unleash on you, and that's what just is amazing about this fight.
Yeah.
And when he pulls him in close, he's probably saying, "Okay, George, this is the round. I'm tired of you. You can't stand up much more than this, can you? You ready to go? You ready to go? Look at this. He just
and fell into him.
I bet you would into him to tell you, I told you I'm not Joe Frazier. I told you that. I told you I'm not kidding. I told you I'm not kidding. No, I'm not Joe Frazier. I'm Muhammad Ali, the greatest.
And what's funny too is Ali before the fight, remember he said that he called Foreman the mummy, right. And that's exactly it's accurate, you know.
Yep.
Exactly.
That's still not a bad left there, but it's got, you know, George's like,
he hit him, but
there's nothing behind it other than him falling into it.
Right. Yeah, he's.
Oh, that's good.
Yes,
that's good uppercut.
That moved a few mountains. Still holding on. Makes you wonder though. You're just sitting there going like, wow, Foreman's doing everything he has, and Ali's like, I ain't done yet, George. I ain't done yet. Amazing.
Like, Look, you got one more left in you, George? You got one more left in you?
He's talking.
Yep.
Right, like, I see you.
You want to get out the way so I can sit down. All right, round 8.
That right hand again.
And there, boom. That's short chopping, boom. There we go.
Yep. Shooting that jab right at him.
There it is.
Oh, just throw him out the ring.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, he'd have fell out the ring if the ropes weren't there.
He need to mix.
It's so it's so easy to laugh about this, but you have to. I mean, I have to remember that going into this and during this fight, Foreman's supposed to destroy him, and the plan was if round 8 was coming, there's no way Ali should even be. You know, that should be like the next fight. There's no way this is going to go 8 rounds, and now that we see what he's doing, what Ali's doing, it makes perfect sense. But up until maybe round 4 or 5, I'm like, what is going on here? He's getting beat up. No, he's got a plan. And now the plan is coming to fruition. You're like, okay, George, don't you see what he's doing? No, because we didn't see it either.
Yeah, and George actually did
now
pretty well here in the middle of the round here. I forgot about that. He did land some pretty good jolting punches, but
yeah.
No, the one thing too about George, he never stopped trying. Of course, he kept on doing what he was doing, but Ali just outsmarted him, and that's all there was to it. And then, of course, as we said, he could take it, and See, here he's gassed again. You know Ali knows it.
Yeah.
Just
So
wait.
He's just standing there.
Yep. Trying to throw a
Like
sneak.
you're playing with your cat.
There. Yeah, he's just, okay,
it's like you're playing with your cat. He's just like, You know, there's nothing else he can do right now. He's got no gas left in him at all.
Just wait a minute, and then when he's lined up perfectly.
I think that's just about Ali's mastery, though. When you look about that, how he's able to style, come up with wait. He's not going anywhere. He doesn't fear him right now at this point. No, you got big shots, Jordan, but still, I'm gonna be here all night.
Boom, yeah, and see, hit another big right. See, that's what starts another right.
Boom,
another right.
Boom,
another right, left, right.
We have had enough. Now he goes down at 11.
That was a great combination by the old man.
Did he beat the count? I've never thought about this. Did he beat the count?
I always actually thought he did, Frank, but didn't matter.
Yeah, George Foreman was like, I'm good.
But if he beats the count, yeah, it's like, I don't want to go another round, doesn't matter.
Well, but usually, too, even if he did beat the count, the fighter usually has something to say.
Yeah, he didn't say anything.
He didn't say anything. Like,
right.
Dundee saying he did exactly what I said to do. Well,
yeah, right.
See, he's tired. He was tired. He just never showed it.
And then there he is, the man standing there. And
yeah, watch Don King's face. Watch Don King go to you. Cut away. Don King said, Ali said, "You're George Foreman," and allegedly, what I've heard, Don King's never confirmed this, but when Don King was there, he just said a 4-letter word basically starts with F to Don King, F-U. When he was standing there, you could see Don King smiling, and then when Ali says it, he goes,
yeah.
Ali wasn't somebody you wanted to mess with.
We're looking at not only a classic, but this is kind of a definitive moment in sport, if you ask me. Again, we talked about this, but when we started this is, one, the big spectacle. The Rumble in the Jungle, when it was promoted worldwide, all this fun stuff. It changed, I think, the way we look at a sports event, for one thing. That's the big picture. The other thing is, it proves that if you are the greatest, or you call yourself the greatest, and you want to prove it, you better be able to adapt and make things happen. And I think the beautiful thing of this is, whatever we thought Ali was going to do is not what he did. And whatever he did was what he had to do. So, Charles, what stands out about from the start of the fight? Let's go back to the start of the fight.
Well, his ability to take the punches, literally. I mean, that was major for me. Because even in the earlier fight, when he was aggressive in the first round, he came out aggressive. George Foreman was landing punches. And we talk about the attack. I'm not going to get to the other part. I'll let you guys talk about that. But for me, the ability to take punches. Because we saw it against Norton. We saw George Foreman against Frazier. Legitimate guys that can take punches. And Ali is like, look, I'm here. And you mentioned before about the body shots. But he was getting hit in his head. And that's one thing I noticed when I'm watching him backing up. Yeah, you said early on he was missing, Foreman was something. But some of the stuff was legitimately rocking him. And I said to myself, I'd never paid close attention to see that before. Which to me gives Ali the victory more credence because he was able to sustain and continue on with his plan.
And John, we're looking at, from Foreman's point of view, you come to the fight, you're pumped up, you're ready to go, and then this guy does the opposite of what you expect. What maybe could Foreman have done differently, or what should Foreman have done, I guess?
Well, see, he could have obviously tried to not punch himself out, but he's 38-0 at this point, I think, or 37-0 with 34 knockouts or 35 knockouts. He's not going to change his game plan at this point. he's thinking in his mind, I believe, that I'm going to knock him out eventually. I might not be hurting him in the beginning of the fight, but I'm going to get him eventually. And he's hitting me with these punches in the beginning, and I'm not feeling them. So I'm going to get him. I'm going to knock him out just like I did Joe Frazier. I mean, that was what the predictions were by a lot of the so-called experts, where the fight wouldn't even go 3 rounds. So he's thinking, I'll just keep doing it. I'm eventually going to get him because it's worked my entire career. I'm not going to change now. And I think to the bitter end, he thought that. I mean, as we just saw in the 8th round, he even landed some pretty good punches. He probably kept thinking to himself, I'm going to get this guy. But as we saw, no, he never would. He never would get a guy like Muhammad Ali, because Muhammad Ali was only great. He was smart and he was tough, and he wasn't going anywhere. And I know that before the fight, probably everybody knows this now, is that his handlers were afraid that Muhammad Ali would never quit, that he could get hurt so badly by George Foreman, because he'll never quit, right?
Right.
You combine all those things, and then that ring IQ, that adaptability. To me, that's the key after watching this too, Frank. Muhammad Ali's adaptability, something that George Foreman did not have. Muhammad Ali had it. He said, okay, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to change my game plan, and there you go.
Well, Charles, I'm going to dig deep into the History Channel here. From Shaka Zulu and William Wallace, this hasn't been done before this way. As far as, and I'm sure if we go back to boxing, it probably has been, but it's never been seen to be done. How do you beat the big puncher? You let him hit you. What? Who thinks of that?
Well, but I think too, and that's Ali though, because as you mentioned before, the younger Ali would run around the ring, would try to stay away, and then hopefully tire him that way. The older Ali says, you know what? As you mentioned, I fought this guy, I fought that guy. I maintained my ability to stand up and my stamina, and I'm going to try this. And if I keep holding him properly and hitting him enough times from a counter standpoint, when he's going back, then I got a chance. And nobody's expecting this. He's not expecting this. So it's a brilliant plan. What I love about it too is the fact that when your corner doesn't know what the hell you're doing, that tells you, because most fighters come in and live and die by their corner, right? It's, you better listen to me. I'm telling you, kids, you're going to do all that other stuff. But when a man comes in and nobody has an answer, and they can't even tell you, all they can tell you is stay off the rope, stay away from me. But they don't say anything else. Like, okay, now you need to go to the body. They go, just stay away from him. Just like, we don't know what to tell you. Just stay away from him. That makes this strategy that he had even more impressive, because he perhaps was the only person that knew what he wanted to do and what he had to do to win this fight.
John, and to echo what Charles said, let me ask you this way. Was it a plan, or is it just kind of it happened? Did he think, I mean, I know we've heard the stories and all that. Did he really know he was going to do this before the second round?
Well, it's interesting. If you read about Muhammad Ali, the way he got ready for a lot of fights is he would spar just like he did in the Foreman fight. He would let guys pound on him to get his body ready. And I think he knew in his own mind that he could take it. So, no, I think his plan was to move, because you watch anything about it. Was he doing that as a fake job? You watch him moving around the ring, and he's still quick and sharp at 32 years old. We saw against Frazier, 2 years before, but he still can move pretty well when he wants to. But I think he just felt, and he had enough talent where most of us wouldn't be able to change, where this is like a guy you're talking about a guy with a strong right hand, and suddenly he uses his left hand, and he's good enough to do it that he still scores. And you're like, wait, I thought he didn't have a left hand. So you think of it like that, right? You think, no one expected him to lay. Why would he lay on the ropes against a guy who's knocking everybody out? Makes no sense.
Right.
But I think he just figured it out in the second round. Look, I went out in the first round. I tried to hurt him. I got his attention. I made him angry, but I really didn't hurt him. So I think this is going to be a fight where, And like I said, he's cutting off the ring. I don't feel like I can move as good as I can. I'm just going to have to go down to hell to get this victory and figure it out. And he was one of those. That's why he's so special to me. Because, you know, they talk about people find a way and they do this. He was the kind of athlete, he could dig deep. He could find a way to win. And you combine all that with his special talent. So, no, you answered your question, Frank. I heard later that, he had a plan in his mind. He might have been in the back of his mind, in my opinion, because like I said, it's hard. But as it played out, he said, well, I think I'm going to have to do this. We'll see what happens. And he quickly figured out again, well, hey, this is working. So, you know, genius.
Well, something, you know, something's used in tennis. The guy's got a big forehand. If you really want to beat him, you give him forehands, but you give him a little bit over here, a little bit there, a little bit to get it out of his sweet spot, out of his comfort zone, and make him have to stretch a little bit. And then once your big weapon is gone, where else can you go? And I think, Charles, that's what we saw. When Ali takes away Foreman's power by allowing him to use that power, Foreman's got to be thinking, what the hell do I do now?
Yeah, no doubt. Plus, too, let's look at it from this standpoint. This has not been done before. This has not been done before. Foreman has always shown us earlier what he's capable of, just beating the hell out of people, and they basically succumbing to his power. Ali, and when he figured it out, whatever round it was like, okay, well, I'm going to take this away, and people screaming at you, telling you you're doing this the wrong way. It just shows you that at some point, as you mentioned, John, he's bearing down. And not only am I bearing down, waiting on your shots, I'm shooting back at you. And now your attention where I'm popping, popping you back. But you're like, wait a minute, now you let me hit you. Then you shoot me back a shot or some shots? Who the hell are you? And I think that, again, when you watch boxing, we like to talk about technicians and whatnot, but I think Ali was one of the originators of that. The whole point of being a technician, making adjustments on the fly like he did. And again, to me, this is probably the greatest fight of all time, where all the odds were stacked against him. Everybody said he was going to lose. And he fought a man, as you guys mentioned, was undefeated. And not only that, the way he defeated was masterful, man. When I watch this, and I know we don't equate pretty or beauty with boxing, but man, that was beautiful, bro. You're a boxing fan. I'm serious. I would say that I'm not a big, soft and warm type of dude, but man, that when you watch this fight together with you guys, that shit was beautiful. It was.
Well, John, it looked to me, and correct me if I'm going to use the terminology wrong, but he counterpunched first. We're used to counterpunches waiting to get hit or waiting for the other guy to throw punches. What he would do, it seemed to me, Ali, was countering Foreman's movements with punches. So when it looked like George would come in, and then let him come in. So now Foreman has to react to that, but Ali's reacting to Foreman's movements. So when he comes in, instead of, like we said in the Foreman-Frazier fight, where he's pushing him away, he's bringing him in with that little, I'm going to give you a little bit, and now the distance is closed before you know it, and now you can't throw those big bombs.
Yeah, and Ali is Charles's favorite word. I was waiting for him to use it. Crafty. And he is the king of the crafty, right? And he led in the first round. Ali led in the first round. Like I said, I think he wanted to see if he could surprise Foreman, could hurt him a little bit. So he led those lead right hands. He was getting off first, and that was trick number one. That shocked everybody. No one expected it to come out like that. Everyone thought he'd go moving around the ring and jab, jab. Comes out like, I'm going to get my respect from George. And then, as you described it so well, Frank, then he played the little game where, George would be getting ready, and then George would be throwing one of those he'd go right down the middle, bam, with the jab, bam, with the jab. George going to swing again, and then he'd pull him to him and hold him. That's why I said I don't use the term genius very much, but I use it with him because it was ingenious what he did. It was just a culmination of skill, guts, and brains. And George didn't have an answer. And I don't really blame George for it because I don't know a guy like him. His fighting style was one style. So what was he supposed to do? Like you said, Frank, Ali took away it's like he cut his hair, he took away all his strength. And what was he going to do,
Well, I'm like you. I don't use the word genius that often unless I'm looking in the mirror when I shave. That's another story entirely. But the idea being, yes, I know. The idea being that he did something that Ali did something that I don't think anyone thought could be done. But B, okay, I'm going to ask this of Charles because we're roughly the same age. Not to say that John's an old man, but anyway.
Hey!
But I'm just using the little gap there. But even if we were into boxing before this, or you were kind of into boxing, or whatever, is this the seminal moment where you go, wow, this has given me a whole new perspective on another sport, on competitiveness, on all that stuff? Is that where you go, this from there was life before this and life after that? Or am I overstating it a little too much?
No, I wouldn't say overstating it, but you're not overstating it because there are only a few before Ali that can do this type of thing, right? And granted, unfortunately, the sad thing about it is John, I'm not going to throw John out there like that, but when you think about boxing in general, the sad thing about it is a lot of people were not privy to seeing these fights. So we have to go back now and kind of really see the mastery of some of the other guys. But to see, knowing what Ali meant to the world, we were able to see him from time to time, and he was on TV a lot more than the average person. But to the other greats that did very similar things, unfortunately, we weren't able to see them. But he was the guy, and he was the guy that showed us this is how it's done. I'm going to do it unconventionally sometimes. I'm going to make you realize that I'm not afraid of anybody. That's the other part I love about when we watch this fight with Ali. We always talk about that era of greatness in heavyweight boxing. He fought everybody. He fought everybody. Win, lose, or draw. He fought them all, and he still stood. He was still standing. The majority of the time, he was still standing, and he was showed you why he was the greatest. And I think that's why people, it's easy to say, well, I never saw him, so they say the GOAT, he must be the GOAT. But you realize what we watched, what we experienced against some of the top names in boxing, and then the way he was able to win in different types of manners, that says a lot why Ali is the greatest of all time, in my opinion.
Well, John, we'll go back and we'll get the film of the movie Errol Flynn and Gentleman Jim. So to give you some perspective as well.
Hey, Frank, are you a mind reader? I was sitting there, I was just going to say, I was not in New Orleans in 1892 at ringside. I was John L. Sullivan, James J. Corbett, and a big gigantic. What was I giving? I must have been giving you little subliminal signs or something for you to do that. But yeah, no, that's. I'm impressed,
it's
Frank.
John L. Sullivan himself, mate. Yeah. John L. Sullivan himself. Yeah.
Frank,
but right off the tree, pluck it and no. But seriously though, this is one of those things where we look at it and you go, now I'm selfless plug here. I'm starting a series of videos that we're doing that are those outliers, the things that happen that shouldn't have happened. Wayne Gretzky season where he scores too many goals and Bob Eamon's long jump and all that stuff. And even though this doesn't quite fit that thing, it's still that thing where you look at it and go, what in the world? This is a whole new way of looking at stuff. Because if we're going to go the underdog thing, we always should go to Tyson and Buster Douglas. Or it should be Buster Douglas and Mike Tyson if you want to really make it right. But this is something where it's the rise, the fall, the rise, all of that. And of course, if you really want to look at it that way, you also can go to George Foreman against Michael Moore and say the rise and the comeback and all that as well. But the idea being, this is one of those things where this shouldn't have happened. I mean, everybody, and I know it shouldn't have happened against Liston. I get that. We're going to go another few times. It should have happened against Frazier. They'll come back against Leon Spinch. This is a guy that just defies the odds all the time, or defies the quote unquote smart people. So, Charles, I don't even know if I have a question to this, but it's just, what makes this Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay dude so special?
Wow.
Yeah, keep it under 25 minutes if you can.
Look, I'm not you. Anyway, but I think part of it is his experience, the skill set, the understanding of his opponent's ability, their weaknesses, and their strengths. I think that goes a long way because everybody tried to go after George Foreman the same way. And at whatever point, whatever round it was, third round, whatever you may have, he knew at some point, I can take this. I can do this. And I think that's what made Ali great because he would adjust. If it was on the fly, this round, that round, I'll do what I have to do. Even back to the point you guys mentioned about, the punch everybody says that he would throw that so-called ghost punch against Sonny Liston. He adjusted and did what he had to do. Even after the first Frazier fight, he made adjustments. And that's what made him great because he had that ability to adjust. And even when his trainer didn't see it. This is what makes Ali that genius you guys mentioned being in that scientist because he had that ability to adjust and come back and get that victory. And everybody's like, oh no, how he did it. Oh no. I'll even making Howard Cosell eat his own words, which is beautiful.
Should have made him eat that toupee, but that's another story. Okay, now, John, we've spent a lot of time extolling the virtues of Muhammad Ali, but also let's look at George Foreman in this. Maybe not in this particular setting, but understanding what George Foreman does after this. So, does it take a special person to lose in this fashion and then 20 years later come back and get the title?
Yeah, no, it does, Frank. And, you remember that after this fight, he was almost considered like something of a joke in a sense by a lot of people, even though he beat Frazier and again, but then Jimmy Young did kind of the similar thing to him, knocked him down and won a decision, and he quit. And again, he was exhausted. But this Jimmy Young was moving more than Muhammad was, so he walks away and he comes back and he completely metamorphosizes, recreates this George Foreman persona, this fat man who likes to eat burgers and knock everybody out, and everybody loves him. So in a way, you have to say that what he did when he came back is incredible. Now, did he fight anybody even close to who he was fighting in the 70s? No. But what he achieved at 45 years old, incredible. And he was a different guy too when he was 45. I mean, he wasn't very fast when he was 24. You watch the 44, 45-year-old version, I mean, he's very slow and can be outboxed. Exactly. You got the Archie Moore technique of this and all that stuff. But George Foreman has probably been underrated in a sense in his entire career. I mean, you don't hear very many people say that he was one of the best heavyweights ever. He was. He was one of the best heavyweights. Not the top 3 or maybe the top 5, but I think definitely the top 10 or close. No more than top 15. He's there. He was powerful. Anybody that could knock out Ken Norton like he did, nobody knocked out Ken Norton like that until he got old, and then Jerry Cooney did it. But Ken Norton was tough on everybody. Ask Larry Holmes about Ken Norton. So Foreman, we love to talk about guys who are underrated. I don't really think he's necessarily underrated, but maybe he didn't get the credit that he deserves. Like you just said, of the first career being a champion and then the second career being a champion. I mean, that is pretty damn phenomenal. So, you got to give it to George.
Well, Charles, if you were a little younger than we are, say 10, 15 years younger than we are, and because this is the comparison I'm going to try and make. Our generation doesn't give Sonny Liston his due. Mm-hmm. And I just think that's universal across the board. He was champ, blah, blah, blah. He beat this guy, he beat that guy, he beat blah, blah, blah. And then he loses to Ali. Then he really loses to Clay, then really loses to Ali. And we forget he still fought after that. Mm-hmm. We just figured he was done. That was last fight. Never heard from him again because he received no play. George Foreman, on the other hand, who basically followed the same path as Liston, loses to Ali and redeems himself. It took him a while, but he redeems himself. Now, if we don't have that redemption and say you are about 10, 15 years younger than us, would you be looking at George Foreman like you looked at Sonny Liston after this fight?
Perhaps, yeah, because Foreman took a break, whatever hiatus, and then for him to come back, it's like, what's the old dude doing, right? And you would think that that's possible to come back and not only come back but be a force. And I think the problem, as we said earlier, is with Sonny Liston. We never saw him fight. I can't tell you. I couldn't tell you right now who the hell is Sonny Liston fought before he won Ali. Being brutally honest with you, but I think that's because the exposure to his career, unless you go back now, which I'm going to do, so I can give him his just due. It just wasn't there. And when you were so reliant on the media back then, that's all we knew. You never heard Wild World Sports saying, "Oh, we're going to show you this great fight of Sonny Liston back, blah blah." Sonny Liston is always, for the most part, in my connection, connected with Cassius Clay. That's what it is. That's his historical moment, right? And we know when he beat this guy, his historical moment, as we know it, was with Cassius Clay because he was the champion. But looking at Foreman, I think the other thing too, which is really outstanding, is the fact that, to me, the Michael Moore fight that he had was his rope-a-dope moment. When I watched him fight, I'm like, damn, this is Ali, right? At 32 years old. And the connection, as I watched him fight again, was like, man, this dude, I'm not saying if he knew it right at that point, but maybe there was a moment during the fight, during the round, you're like, wait a minute, flashback. This young boy, I think I got something. And I would love to talk to George Foreman to ask him. It was his rope-a-dope moment. He waited and waited, and finally his time came. And well, look at him. Yeah. I wonder if he felt like that was redemption, right? So many years later, I know what Ali was going through now, and damn it, right. I'm a champion. Want to buy grill?
Well, this has been great, John. Charles, this has been fantastic. I'm glad we were able to do these three. And every time we talk about one of these, it brings up something else. And it brings up another one, another thought. And there's only so much time in the day, so much time in the week to do these. But I really would love to do 127 more of these. This is fantastic. So, any final words, John?
Well, Frank, you summed it up really well when you said about the importance of this moment in boxing. For me personally, it's been pretty obvious, Charles, and I really love Muhammad Ali. But that fight, I have to tell this real quick. That this is a story that makes me smile. The results came over at about 2:15. I'm laying in my room. I'm 16 years old. I'm supposed to be asleep, but I'm listening on the radio, and then I jumped out of bed at 2:15 in the morning, was running around the house going, Ali won! Ali won! Ali won! My dad gets up. He goes, Ali won? Because he thought he was going to get killed too. So that pretty much summed up the whole feeling around the entire world. It was just such a phenomenal moment. And a great redemption for Muhammad Ali too. The war, all the people who didn't like him. Talk about telling people what they could do with themselves. That was just phenomenal. So no, it was it's one of those moments that I'll always smile about, and I'll always smile about when I think about him because the man behind me, he's one of those athletes that just comes around once every, I don't know how many years. And I just feel very grateful that I was old enough to be around when he was around, in the sense where I knew what was going on. So long live Muhammad, and kudos to George Foreman as well.
Charles?
Yeah, when you think about it, that point in time with Ali winning that fight, I think my dad told me that he won. And I told my father to just quit messing with me. And I never said to my dad. I was just, I said, you know how I feel about that, man. Why would you say something like that? Why would you play with me like
Right.
that? He said, no, he won. I was like, wow. You know, everybody talked about how old he was and what he meant and whatnot too. But I want to give him even more credence, not like he needs it, but just the fact that what he went through, as far as you mentioned about the war and how he was treated, even some of his African American friends early on turning against him or taking another side, and he still stayed tough. And then also too, I want to give him credit from the standpoint of being able to still connect with people after they did what they did to him and they came for him. Because being the man who I am right now, and in my past, I can't say I could have done what he done as far as like forgave people and still connect with them and gave them a chance to really understand him. I think that's noble of him because you're not supposed to hold grudges, but it says something about a man that can still realize what he means to the world and let his life and his experience speak for themselves and even lets people know that they were wrong about him. That says a lot about that. I'm telling you, I probably would have went off a bunch of people. I'm cutting you off. Nope, I'm the guy. You can't talk to me. To hell with you. Get in line. You'll never get another interview. That's being brutally honest, but that's who it was. And that's what makes him special and makes him a great individual and a hero in a lot of sense.
Well, I'm going to give credit to George Foreman, not necessarily for this fight, but for George Foreman in general, because we've lived long enough to understand the passage of time isn't, a couple of weeks or a couple of months, though at that age when we would have been George Foreman, like, oh my goodness, I had the title, I had domination, I had everything I needed right here in front of me, and this guy took it from me. Now what do I do? And to think 20 years later he comes back and he gets that. Not only does he get the title back, but just the run up to that, what he had done with his life, the good he had done in his community, all the things that he said, I'm no longer going to hold on to this defeat that way. I'm going to use the skills that God gave me and be a better person and take care of business that way. And oh, by the way, I'm going to regain my belt. How about that? So it's an interesting thing to say in the passage of time, which is really a blink of an eye. Everyone can go back and say, oh yeah, 3 minutes ago or last week, I'm at the point where I can say 20 years ago, oh my goodness, that was 20 years ago. And understanding what you can do with yourself and help others and still say, I still have that goal. I want to have that belt back. And he put himself into the ringer and did it. So to me, it's fantastic. So that to me is, and I'm going to give accolades to Muhammad Ali, but I have to give credit to George Foreman for what he did after this moment that we just saw. Well, again, another stellar show on Real Boxing Talk. At least I'm going to ding. I'm going to say that. Maybe no one else will, but that's okay. If you don't like it, watch something else. It's okay. We don't mind. We have some hardcore fans that watch what we do. That's fantastic. So on that note, gentlemen, I'm going to say we're going to jump back into the present next week, and we'll roll from there. Thank you very much.
Right.